So hello guys, bang bang. We have Tushar here, who is a principal at LUNEX VC. Thank you, Tushar, for joining us today. And Tushar has also been actively investing in the blockchain and the crypto space for a while. And also, he's also the host of Decrypt Asia, one of the leading blockchain and crypto podcasts in the space. So you can follow Tushar across LinkedIn, Twitter, and he's always pretty much active. So welcome to the show, Tushar. Thank you so much for joining us from Singapore in spite of your busy schedule. So to begin with, why don't you just start with a quick introduction about yourself and what you have been doing and what excited you to be a part of this space.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Prashant, for having me. I mean, it's good to be on the other side where I'm not the one asking questions, but I'm the one answering questions. So more than happy to answer all the questions that you have and connect with your audience as well. Very quick introduction. So I'm a principal at LUNEX Ventures, as Prashant mentioned. LUNEX is the crypto arm of a traditional venture capital fund called Golden Gate Ventures, which is based in Singapore. Golden Gate started off investing in traditional startups in 2011. Started off with a $10 million fund. Manage a little bit more than $150 million as of today, invested in about 50 companies across Southeast Asia. One of the companies that they invested in 2016 on the equity side was Omise, which is the parent company of the entity that did the token sale, Omise Go, OMG token, which some of the people in the audience may be familiar with. Golden Gate's mandates didn't allow it to invest in the token in 2017 when Omise Go did the token generation event. And so that was kind of how LUNEX was born. We spent about a year kind of structuring the fund, working with multiple law firms, tax advisors, auditors, fund administrators, cybersecurity consultants, the Monetary Authority of Singapore to set up like a properly structured crypto venture capital fund, as we call it. In terms of my journey, I was working as a management consultant to the banking industry. In 2017, I was looking to make a transition to the VC industry, but I wasn't being able to do it. But at the same time, I'd been investing my personal money into crypto. And in 2017, during the bull run, personal investments did decently well. And so by end of 2017, I'd quit my job and originally from Dehradun in India, and moved back to Dehradun for 6 months to keep my cost of living low, and was kind of living out of my parents' place, just researching, investing. I started Decrypt Asia, the podcast that Prashant mentioned, to connect with some founders, build a personal brand, build a network, get allocations to some deals. And by May 2018, I joined the LUNEX team. So it's still a 2-person team. We took care of everything in terms of structuring the fund, fundraising, trying to do deals both on the equity side and tokens. And so essentially, LUNEX is like the crypto arm of Golden Gate. And it's a 5-year closed-ended fund, can do deals both on the equity side as well as tokens. Tokens both in the primary markets as well as secondary markets. So we can invest directly in currencies and tokens that might be listed on exchanges, but also ICOs and kind of STOs in the future. And so that's sort of been my journey. I've worked at LUNEX for about 1.5 years now. We've invested in 6 equity deals. We've done 2 ICOs, and we have about 12 tokens in our liquid portfolio.
Wow, that's wonderful. So is the fund regulated under Singapore Monetary Authority?
Yeah, so I don't want to say the word regulated. We leverage on our parent company's license, which is the RFMC license, the fund management license. And MAS is aware of what we're doing. And I think the way MAS thinks is they want credible people with, I guess, reputations to lose and things like that to kind of be working in the industry and, pushing the industry forward. So they definitely are aware of what we're doing. We've gone back and forth. We've gone back and forth in terms of how we do our custody and things like that to make sure that these assets are custodized in a secure manner. But I wouldn't say that we're regulated because there is no regulation that exists as far as cryptocurrencies go. So these assets are still unregulated assets.
still the important thing is that you have the regulatory support with you, and I think that's what's most important when
Absolutely.
we talk about.
Absolutely. And I think in general, Singapore is a great place to build a crypto business, and the regulator, other bodies and agencies of the government are extremely forward looking and very supportive in terms of providing support to this ecosystem. Even at LUNEX, we've done a couple of deals. One was a staking as a service company called Stake With Us, which is based in Singapore. The other company is a transaction monitoring company called Merkle Science, which is kind of like chain analysis. We led both the deals along with SG Innovate, which is the Singapore government. It's an
innovation fund.
Government fund, and so they co-invested with us on these couple of deals. And so I don't know too many governments globally that would be co-investing with VC firms on crypto blockchain companies.
Wow, I think that's wonderful. So coming to this fund, you throw more insights out, because since crypto is already a new business,
I can't hear you.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, most of the funds in the space, right, they started to exist, I would say, post 2017, right after the crypto boom or during the crypto boom. And it's just been like about, couple of years. So how do you measure your, funds metrics, or how would you measure your overall performance? So is the vision of the fund is, short term, long term? So, what's the evaluation metrics you have?
Sure. So in terms of the documentation, it's a 5-year closed-ended fund. So most hedge funds typically have 1 year to 2 year lockups with quarterly subscriptions and redemptions. For us, we wanted to structure it more like a VC fund and not so much as a hedge fund. But traditional VC funds usually have a time horizon of 8 to 10 years. So we're somewhere in the middle of being a hedge fund and a VC fund. So we have a 5-year closed-ended fund, which means we've locked in our LPs or our investors for a period of 5 years. In terms of performance, so obviously on the equity side, we usually try to do seed stage deals. We try to be the first money in into some of these companies. We do equity investments usually at the seed stage, and then so those investments are tracked as how traditional VC investments would get tracked. And on the token side, so we try to get into currencies and tokens that we believe in fundamentally over a longer period at good prices. So our average entry price into Bitcoin is about $3,500. Average entry price into ETH is about 95. And so, but we won't trade in and out. We'll just try to have good entry prices. We lend out our crypto. We stake whatever can be staked to try and generate some fixed income yield. And that is our strategy. So we're not traders. We're kind of longer term sort of, we approach it from a more of a VC angle than a pure kind of trader angle.
Okay, so that's awesome. However, still, a lot of, lot of investors, or, I would say more of the funds, they are more of a, I would say hedge funds, or, looking forward, getting into Bitcoin ETFs, or, future contracts and, things like that. So do you believe in any of those investments, or do you invest into such investments, or it's purely around, blockchain and, crypto ecosystem, equity and the token deals?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely value in all the instruments, right? So whether you look at ETFs, which helps to bring kind of traditional money into the ecosystem, or even the hedge funds, the algo traders, or people who trade in and out very frequently. They could be momentum driven, market neutral. I think there's value in all kinds of strategies, right? It's just we sat down and figured out what are our core competencies and how can we leverage the competencies that we have. And we just feel it's best to let returns compound. And so instead of providing a stable, 20-30% annually, we want to do a 5x on our fund over a 5-year period.
Okay. So, just coming to the line, what kind of advice, would you like to give to entrepreneurs and also, into crypto investors, since you have been investing for a long period of time and you have been pretty successful. So what's your best advice to the entrepreneurs out there who are looking forward to build a blockchain company? And also what's your advice to, investors or, traditional investors who are looking forward to invest into crypto? What could be the right starting point, and how could they see or evaluate the different kinds of digital assets?
Sure. So I think maybe starting off with investors, I think the right way to go about it is there's a little bit of a learning curve required with regards to investing in crypto. And I think the first step is, I don't know, I think a lot of people just try to get on-ramped in some way, and that traditionally happens through some OTC agents. It happens through platforms like Coinbase, Gemini, and in some cases Binance as well. Like in Singapore, you can on-ramp into crypto through Binance. I think there's at an institutional level, I think it's a little bit difficult at the moment to sell to internal investment committees to get exposure to this asset class. But I think in general, as an individual, it makes, if you're a high net worth individual, or if you're an angel investor, if you make these kind of bets, I think it's very important to have some allocation of your portfolio, even if it's 0.1%, 0.2%, 0.5%, 1% of your entire liquid asset should be in crypto. In terms of what cryptos to buy, I think it's a bit of a trickier one, and I think there's a bit of a learning curve required there. But I think definitely having exposure to some of the larger cap cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, like Ethereum is something that is a good way to kind of start learning about the industry and start kind of getting your feet wet in terms of the learning curve that is required to get on-ramped. As far as entrepreneurs are concerned, I mean, the advice is to try and, I mean, it's a tricky one, right? I mean, I think it's like, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs and traditional startups? I think it's just try to solve a pain point for someone, right? So whether it's for people who are already in crypto and you're trying to solve a pain point for them, we've invested in a lot of startups that are trying to solve pain points for people who are already in crypto, right? So whether it's a crypto options exchange, whether it's transaction monitoring, KYC, AML solutions, blockchain terminals. These are all solutions that are built for people who are in the industry. And the second kind of solutions are people who are trying to build products or services which help to bring more people into crypto. And so things like custodial solutions, things like, crypto art marketplaces. I mean, there's innovative things that one can do, but I think the key thing is to figure out what are the different problems that exist, or how can you make someone's life better, and would they be willing to pay you in whatever form, whether it's through fiat or through crypto, if they're willing to pay for that service in some way.
Okay. The reason why I was asking you this question is because you have been an entrepreneur, and also, you are an investor, and you have seen so many companies, which come across your desk, and, chances of a company getting funded is like about, 1% to 5%, anywhere in between. So, what are the key things an entrepreneur can always keep in its tech when pitching to the entrepreneurs, specifically in the blockchain and crypto side of it? Because a lot of traditional investors, they have this, holy trap that, why you need blockchain. This solution can also be solved using a traditional technology, right? So how do you, kind of make sure that your pitch in terms of, solving a problem using a technology, reaches out clearly?
Yeah, so I think when you reach out to traditional VCs, I think a lot of traditional VCs are, especially I think in this part of the world, I think in the US, traditional VCs have opened up, and I think 30 to 35% of traditional VCs in the US have some sort of allocation to crypto or blockchain companies. But I think in this part of the world, whether that's South Asia or Southeast Asia even, I don't think too many VCs have opened up to the possibilities of this technology. In general, I think it's a lot of times it becomes very difficult for someone who doesn't see what the value proposition of cryptocurrencies are, or the power of having miners or validators in an open network. it becomes very difficult for entrepreneurs to kind of make that argument for why what they're building requires this technology or why it needs tokens. But again, I think that is part of what we're trying to do in the industry as well, where we're trying to evangelize and educate. I think it's a much easier bet, obviously, for entrepreneurs to try and reach out to funds like LUNEX, which are already investing in crypto, which we understand what the value of this industry is, and so it's obviously much easier. And then if you're reaching out to, for the funds that are already investing in crypto, and what do they look out for? It depends. If it's an equity deal and you're being a service provider, building a custodial solution or a wallet or an exchange or a KYC AML solution or terminal or staking as a service, then the metrics are very, very kind of traditional. But if it's a pure crypto company, you have a token, you're coming up with a new protocol or you're coming up with a new application, then it obviously becomes about the token economics. Does the team have, if they're building a protocol, do they have a plan to take the protocol to market? What kind of applications will be built on this protocol? Who would be using those applications? Even if they're using it, what's the point of the token? Is the token going to be a payment token? Is it going to be a governance token? Is it going to be securing the network? Is it going to be what consensus mechanism is being used? And so there are all these things which a lot of folks who are already in the industry should be, well versed with.
Okay, thanks, Tushar. Okay, guys. So thank you so much, Tushar, for your valuable insights. So we'll be moving towards a quick, a rapid fire round. So you need to just choose, what comes first in your mind. So
Sure.
AI or blockchain?
Blockchain, I'm biased.
Okay. And Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Oh, that's a tough one. Ethereum.
Okay. And I'm curious why.
I hope it's not stuck.
No. It's going absolutely fine.
Yeah. So I think so I think Bitcoin is obviously a store of value, and it's proved to be very resilient over the last decade, more than a decade now. But I think Ethereum is sort of the first kind of smart contract platform, which has fueled innovation. There's so much interesting stuff being built on top of it. I'm not saying that a lot of that stuff has a lot of real world use today, but I think it's where a lot of innovation has flourished. From an investment perspective, Bitcoin is still the biggest part of my portfolio, but and even at the fund, I think it's the biggest holding. But I think I am a huge believer in human beings' ability to innovate, and I think if the industry has to survive, we have to solve some kind of problems for someone in the world. And a lot of that innovation is happening on Ethereum and some of the other smart contract platforms, rather than on Bitcoin.
Okay, that's great. I think, you're right to a lot of extent, because Ethereum has a very good developers community, and the stuff which they're doing is pretty cool. And I think they're also solving the supply of Ether through incoming protocols. Where Ethereum will be heading towards Ethereum Ice Age shortly, which would make Ethereum tokens more valuable. So yeah. I think that's a good bet, and I'm aligned with you more, but I would still say Bitcoin anyways. So one last question, Bitcoin or yacht?
I guess Bitcoin, man. It's, look, I think a lot of people in the industry talk about, buying, Lamborghinis and apartments and things like that. I think for me, it's just a true blessing to be, working in an industry which is at the bleeding edge of not just technology, but also finance, and try and, we're both, fairly young, to be able to take such an active role in an industry that is evolving so rapidly, is something that is, I think, a true privilege. And for me, I think, I've always had this since I was a kid. I don't want to be buying apartments and cars. I want to be buying companies. And so I'd rather, if you ask me Bitcoin or yacht, I'd rather use the Bitcoin to build something or buy something or, hold on to some, rather than, buying a yacht. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So thank you so much, Tushar, for taking out your valuable time and, being here. Really look forward to. So if any of our audience wants to reach out to you, how they can, reach out to you, or perhaps can send you the deck.
Yeah, I think the best is Twitter. I think my DMs are open on Twitter. I'm at Tushar307 on Twitter. Happy to, it's the platform where I engage the most.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. So if you're looking forward for, cryptos or blockchain, looking forward to raise money or for some great entrepreneurs advice, Tushar is a guy for you. He's young, he's dynamic, and he's been pretty successful in the space. So thank you so much, Tushar, for being here, and really look forward to doing some cool stuff together. Thank you so much, guys. Cheers. And until then, see you soon. And as Form says, long Bitcoin and short banks.